Well, good morning. I hope you're well, and I appreciate you taking just a moment this morning to join me today and giving thanks to God for the gift of another day. It's a beautiful day, and we're grateful that He is present in our lives. I do certainly hope that this is a part of your daily routine, this time set aside to thank God for being there and for all that He's done for your life. Of course, I know there are some days when that's easier than others. Some days the challenges and problems and stresses seem to be all we can think about. Some days it's hard to imagine God has done anything at all. And some days I think we just forget to think about God's place in our day. You know, this is really one of the principal reasons that Jesus Church functions best when it gathers together in all its various ways and traditions. For people of faith, each day is an exercise in seeking God's presence and wisdom and guidance and mercy. And like so many other parts of life, that exercise always finds greater success when we combine our efforts. When Jesus followers come together, we're able to offer one another our encouragement and prayer and the assurance of faith that strengthens the faith of the people around us. And the reason this happens is that Jesus joins our gathering wherever and whenever the gospel is proclaimed and when his presence is celebrated in things like his meal. Now, of course, as I said, I realize some days this is harder to recognize than others. We're given a perfect example of that today in the appointed reading for the day from chapter 24 of Luke's Gospel. Here Luke gives us part of the Easter story I know I personally find easily relatable. Luke tells us that on the day Jesus rose from the grave, the word began to spread, and two of his disciples were walking together on their way to a place called Emmaus. And who should join them on the road but the risen Lord himself? But unfortunately, these two don't realize it because they're too focused on their grief over the absence of Jesus. Go figure. Well, Luke tells us that Jesus rolled up on these guys ready to talk, but that their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And I suppose the idea here is that Jesus waited to reveal himself until a moment in which his presence would not only be better understood, but would also be recognizable in the future. That moment of recognition and understanding came when Jesus joined his disciples in the blessing and breaking of bread. It was a meal of peace and fellowship and grace that Jesus' presence was recognized, and that's why his church has continued to observe the meal of grace ever since he instituted it. No matter how blinded we might be at times by our grief or our confusion or stress or doubt, we know where Jesus has promised to be. We know where we can always gather and be assured of his presence and the peace that presence brings. Plenty of people today are starved for the reassurance of God's presence in their lives, and this is why our gathering is just as crucial as it's ever been. And of course, our gatherings are limited right now due to our efforts to keep the body of Christ safe from illness, but nonetheless, every effort is being made to celebrate that presence. Congregations are gathering in safe ways wherever they can. Here at Lutheran Church of the Pines, we're offering the community the opportunity to receive Jesus in his meal one car at a time. And for those who can't venture out, the word that promises Jesus' presence is available in many different ways. What matters is that we encourage and support one another in reminding the world that Jesus lives and that he continues to be about his work of blessing and forgiving our Father's beloved children. So, if you're available, come join us for the meal or join the body in some other place to hear the promise that saves. And if you can't do that, Find someone you can reach that's looking for hope. Share your faith in God's promises, and by the Spirit's grace, see their eyes opened. That's why the Lord has given you this day, and why He is with you whatever road you travel. Be safe and have a wonderful week.